Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Stacy Varghese, and I'm the Associate Director in the Office of Advancement at St. John's University. Today, we have Neil Feinstein, who will discuss influencer and mobile marketing. Some housekeeping rules before we begin. If you have a question, please submit it on the bottom right in the Q&A section to panelists and hosts, and they will be answered throughout the presentation. As a reminder, please make sure to keep yourself on mute. Lastly, a recording of today's session will be emailed to you after the webinar. Now, I'm excited to introduce our speaker. Neil Feinstein is an associate professor of advertising at St. John's University and the director of the MS in Integrated Advertising Communications program. Prior to joining St. John's, Neil was an adjunct professor for 11 years at New York University, teaching in their Masters of Integrated Marketing program. Neil came to education after a 30-year career in advertising, the last 16 years of which were focused on interactive marketing. He built the first ever online ads for the New York Times, the first ever mobile program for the DMA, and the first ever email marketing program for Hachette Filipaki. In addition, Neil has won multiple creative and digital innovation awards. Welcome, Neil. I will hand the webinar controls over to you now.
Good morning. So you can all hear me? Stacy,
Yes.
you can hear? Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure. Glad to be here. I apologize if you hear any ambient noise on the outside. I'm at home right now and they're working on I live in Manhattan, they're working on my building. So I've got my earbuds in, so hopefully that'll cover the noise. I want to talk to you today on about a big problem that we're having in the world of advertising and marketing communications. People are just not interacting with our ads. They are not interested in advertising. They are actively paying to avoid advertising. And yet it's our job to sell things. So I want to talk to you about the world that we live in. And then, as Stacy mentioned, I'm going to talk to you briefly about two ways that marketers and advertisers and brands are working their way around this world that we live in. So let's start by looking at the context, setting a context for the marketing environment. And this is based on marketing guru Philip Kotler. He says that we are in marketing 4.0. So let's look back and see. Marketing 1.0 was the product-based years. It's the Mad Men days when advertising focused on product benefits. Well, then we went into marketing 2.0, which was consumer based. And this was the heyday of direct marketing and where we started using databases to capture information about our customers and use that information to make marketing decisions and to personalize the communications that we were sending out to customers. Well, then social media happened and we moved into marketing 3.0, which was collaboration based. Social media eclipsed everything and we had to change because instead of advertising at consumers, we had to dialogue with a consumer, which was a whole new way of thinking. And we now have to collaborate with consumers. Well, then mobile happened. And it's not just mobile, the device, but it's this whole age of connectivity, which is marketing 4.0, where no matter where a consumer is, she can connect to whatever resources she needs to accomplish her purpose. And that's very important because people don't go online just to meander. People go online for a purpose. So this led to a seismic shift that disrupted consumer behavior and impacted how we practice marketing. We've moved from being exclusive to inclusive. Technology and social media have liberated people so that they're not hindered by geography. Borders have disappeared, and this has allowed for new kinds of interactions and collaborations. Humans are embracing social inclusivity. We've moved from vertical to horizontal. Technology has empowered individuals to easily become entrepreneurs. Size nor country matters. co-creation is really becoming the norm. And we've moved from individual to social. And that's because of the connectivity that we do have today. Virtually anyone, anywhere can be connected. And we're sharing opinions and making recommendations because we are connected and because we can do it. Customers together are defining a brand's image. So what distinguishes the new type of customer, the Marketing 4.0 customer, is their tendency to be mobile. And while I'm not really talking about the device, the mobile phone, what I am talking about is the physical presence. Consumers today, pre-COVID, are moving around a lot and they live life faster. And you know what? Even post-COVID too, we're just doing it from our homes. The mobile device has enabled the inclusivity, the horizontality, and the socialness that we just spoke about in the previous slide. And the implications for the way we do advertising and the way we do customer experience are profound. Connectivity through all the screens changes everything. Connectivity knocks down barriers to market entry, reshapes who and where our competition is, and it tells us how our customers, it changes the way that customers and prospects are behaving. Connectivity forces us as brands to be transparent, and it creates unexpected communities. And connectivity has disrupted the normal flow of marketing. So no matter how long you've been a marketing practitioner, it's all new, and the game has changed. So earlier on, I said that the word purpose is very important. Connectivity has enabled by digital devices and multiple screens, and consumers are using the internet to accomplish multiple things. So they're buying stuff and they're connecting with people and they're looking up information, but that's not their motivation to go online. They go online to establish a purpose. So going online, so the path to purchase has morphed into the path to purpose. And consumers are very purposeful when they go online, and that's huge. The million-dollar question is, how can brands become a meaningful part of the path to purpose? So advertising pushes out messages in the past. This is what we've done. We put up our Super Bowl commercials. We push out our direct mail. We put a sign up on the highway and we're pushing out our messaging. But that doesn't engage a customer. That's old marketing 1.0, where we're talking about the product benefits, because the customer at that point did not have a way to talk back with us. Then all of a sudden we realized the customer was part of the conversation. So we tried to pull them in. We said, okay, here's our search ad. Come to my website and visit and learn all about this. Or here's an email. Come to my website and learn all about this. Or come into my store. And this is marketing 2.0. But now with social media and now with connectivity, we are in marketing 4.0, and we must participate with the consumer. And that, again, is a change in the way we think and the way we interact. And I'm going to talk to you shortly about how that interacts, how that is the reason why consumers are no longer engaging in advertising. So our mission today is simply to create unforgettable customer experiences. Instead of advertising, we have to realize that the way to creating brand preference, and brand preference is probably the be-all and end-all metric of everything, is to create a way for consumers to interact with the brand, to feel they own the brand, and to make it relevant to them and their life. Now, all the data tells us customer experiences are critical to being important to connected consumers. 86% of buyers will pay more for a better customer experience. And even more telling, 89% of customers say they've switched brands because of a bad customer experience. And we go on social media and we talk about those bad experiences, so that it's got a exponential effect. Because my bad experience with your brand then becomes the same bad experience for everybody in my social graph. And here's the kicker. Advertising doesn't work. And just look at these stats. Nearly 50% of internet users globally are using ad blockers. So people are actively paying to avoid advertising. We have Netflix. We don't see advertising on Netflix. We have Amazon Prime. We don't see advertising on that. We pay for a subscription to Spotify. We don't see advertising there. We don't listen to advertising. And then we've got ad blockers to block all the ads that are happening on all of our digital devices, the devices that are enabling our connectivity today. And even more important than that, if they do see an ad, people are 500 times more likely to survive a plane crash than to click on a banner ad. So we're spending all this money. Is it working? Maybe, maybe not. Here's what we have to do to break through the noise. We have this simple formula. We need to create relevance. We know that relevance has been a word that we've been talking about for a long, long time. If you're in the market, we can tell through digital predictive modeling and anything like that. We can tell when somebody is in the market for a mortgage, and we can start serving up them ads. We can predict, Amazon can predict what your next buy may be based on what you bought previously. But the thing that changes everything is empathy. Because we can now use the data that we've got to empathize with the person, to understand their intention and where their head is at. And then we can make our advertising or whatever communications we have experiential. And when it's experiential, you're more likely to remember it. So in other words, now what we have to do is we shouldn't advertise, we should we should energize. This is the mantra for 2020. That's how brands have to become relevant, and that's how brands can empathize with customers and create the unforgettable experiences we talked about. Does that happen in advertising? Well, classically, advertising, we divide media in three categories. We've got paid media, we've got earned media, and we've got owned media. Owned media is our email list. Earned media is public relations and social media discussion about our brand. Paid media is where advertising lives. That's us buying time to put our message out there. So the thing is, if people are in control and we're paying to put their message out there, but they're avoiding our advertising at record numbers, the question is, does advertising work anymore? Does it make sense to spend money like that? Well, in some ways it does. There are now two strategies that brands are using that can be categorized as paid media, yet it's not hawking products. They are, very simply, influencer marketing and content marketing. And I'm just going to go into them briefly because, quite frankly, you probably have heard a lot about them. And so what I want to do here for this short presentation this morning is just give you a new way to potentially look at each one, to consider each one as you build out your marketing programs. So let's start with influencer marketing. Let's start with the definition. The definition is a tactic by which a brand or agency or publisher works with individuals or influencers to drive brand messages to meet strategic goals. So yeah, maybe I'm paying Casey Neistat to fly on my airline and to videotape his experience so that he can put it up there. Yes, so that's paid media, absolutely. But consumers perceive the influencer because, well, let's just step back. The influencer is in my social media. I have actively chosen to follow Casey Neistat on Instagram, or I have chosen to see his videos on YouTube, or I do follow him on Twitter. So I don't necessarily perceive him as a brand spokesperson. I perceive him as a friend. And the research says that we pay more attention to a Casey Neistat, to the influencers, because I actively put them into my social media, and I can actually communicate with him. I can send him a message and he'll respond back to me. I was talking with Stacy before this meeting about how I keep following all these yogis all over the world, and I have communications going with all of them. And yeah, they're telling me about the yoga wear they're wearing or the supplements that they're including in their diet. And I'm somewhat interested. I'm more interested to hear what Action Hero has to say about all the stuff he's adding into his coffee than if I were to see an ad about all the stuff that you can add into your coffee. So it's a different mindset on the consumer's end, which is interesting because advertisers as a group have a knee-jerk reaction to categorize media in a certain way, and they categorize it in terms of volume. And that's how they start to buy media. Oh, well, I can advertise on the Super Bowl and I'll reach a lot of people, or I can find this very niche video. I can advertise on House and Garden Network and reach a group of people who are very interested in design and home cooking and home entertaining. So we've done the same with influencers. They categorize them by size. Everything from a nano influencer, which is a small group of maybe 1,000 to 10,000 followers. That's me and all the yoga people that I'm following, all the way up to these mega influencers, which have over 1 million followers. Yes, that's where Kim Kardashian falls, because people, for some reason, like to follow Kim Kardashian and see what she's wearing, where she's going, what she's eating, and the activities she's engaging in. So that's a great way to reach people. But it doesn't get, if you go back to that whole point of relevance versus empathy, it doesn't really do a whole lot in the world of empathy. So I offer you a different way to look at your influencers, different topologies, different ways to think about, okay, who should I be choosing first? And then what is my reach second? So I offer you 6 topologies. So the first is referent influencers, and these are the easiest influencers to reach because these are the people in my social graph, right? So all my friends who go to a restaurant and have a great experience and post pictures of the wonderful food that they're seeing on Instagram, and I look at it and I say, wow, gee, that pasta dish looks amazing. I'm going to go try that pasta. I'm going to go try that restaurant. Or I see their reviews on Facebook, or I see, maybe their reviews are connected through Facebook to TripAdvisor. And so that has a lot of influence with me because I have a personal relationship with these people. Then there are the expert influencers, those people I follow who are experts at what they do. So those are all the yoga people that I'm following who are expert at doing yoga, and they're teaching me different ways to do it and different techniques to overcome some challenges that I'm having right now. If you're buying a TV, these are the people who can tell you, buy the Samsung versus the Sony because of this reason. And we often check the expert influencers when we are in the purchase funnel. Then there are the positional influencers. So yeah, I checked all the expert influencers when I was figuring out what TV I want to buy. But now I'm standing in Best Buy and I'm standing with my best friend and he's sitting next to me and he's saying, you know what? We're looking at the TVs. The resolution on TV A is much better than the resolution on TV B. I think you should get TV A. So he's influencing me because we are right there. And the best example of influencers, of positional influencers for me, is if you've ever seen that show, Say Yes to the Dress, those are the positional influencers. Those ladies that are sitting behind the bride on the sofa, commenting on every single dress she tries on, they are positional influencers, and they're going to have a big say in which dress she buys. Next up are the exposure influencers, and those are celebrities, and they're huge. I mean, Kim Kardashian is out there, but also, many of the celebrities. I recently saw Brad Pitt and Leo DiCaprio talking about voting rights. What expertise do they have about voting rights? Probably none, but because they're famous, because they have a certain persona in the world, I like to listen to them and I agree with them, so I follow them and I'm more open to their message. So that opens me up in terms of consideration. Yes, I will consider this product because Brad Pitt says it's a good product. There are situational influences, which are similar to positional influences. However, these situational influencers are not necessarily next to you, but they are in the middle of a situation. And they are tweeting and posting from that situation. So, great example of this was all those people who were out this past summer protesting about Black Lives Matters. And anytime you would see a post from them, a tweet from them, see a video about them, these people are in the thick of it and they're sharing their experience at the moment. And this is a very powerful way to create empathy because you're actually getting the human experience. And then the last are the advocacy influencers. And these people are very interesting because these are people who are not advocating for a brand. They're not hawking a brand. They're not out there selling, vitamin water because I'm a yoga instructor and being paid by the vitamin. And I know, by the way, as I see this yoga instructor talking about this vitamin water that he is being paid by them. But these advocacy influencers are not being paid. They're out there trying to promote a cause or an event or a social movement. A great example of an advocacy influencer in which I've done a lot of research, I did a case study on, is Susan, I'm forgetting her last name offhand, but she was the woman, the developer who worked at Uber and wrote and uncovered their sexual harassment culture with a blog post. And by the way, right now she has become a journalist and a consultant, and she writes about the hashtag Me Too movement. She was actually one of Time Magazine's Women of the Year in 2016, I believe it was, because of all the work she's done. Did she get paid to write that blog post? No, but look at what it did. It brought down the CEO, changed the culture at Uber, and now it's still, they still have other problems. So if you're creating empathy, if you're building out empathy, you can look at this and you can choose your influencers who are paid media based on who they are and what they represent to the customer. And then go back in and say, okay, how many people am I going to reach through this influencer? I also want to talk to you briefly about content marketing, because we know that people are not consuming advertising, but we also know they are consuming content. And content is a great way around this morass of getting people to interact with our brand. So according to the Content Marketing Institute, content marketing is a marketing technique of creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content to attract and acquire a clearly defined audience with the objective of gaining profitable customer action. So, these words, while we're delivering information and engagement, and at the end of the day, we are still marketing and trying to create a profit. And I think that's really important. So 6 roles of content. Content has to inspire, educate, entertain, inform, help, and reward. And there's a word that you're not seeing in there that's very important to us marketers and advertisers. And that word is selling. Content doesn't sell. Nowhere in a piece of content do you say, come into our store today and buy a new iPhone with this special camera. No, but it provides information, it creates engagement, it endears the customer to the brand in a way that is low, there's a low barrier for that customer to come in and endear the brand. And what it does is it gets into the customer's head and heart in a way that advertising can't. So let's compare the two. Content shows things while advertise says things. Content likes to create a relationship where advertising really is a one-night stand. Content is very individual and personal. I feel like they're talking to me because I'm engaging in this content because it's meaningful to me, it's relevant to me, and advertising tends to be more mass. I'll throw my search ad up on Google and see who clicks on it. Content is looking to be long-term. You may not get the sale right now, but you may get the sale later on. And at the end of the day, when you look at the important metrics, lifetime value becomes a more meaningful metric than immediate sales. So at the end of the day, content is all about engaging somebody, where sales is all about selling. Now, it's so interesting to me because I always think of the car buying experience. The car buying experience is all about sales. Come into the showroom, test drive the car. They've got a purchase funnel out there, and they know that purchase funnel and the customer journey so well. But you know what? People buy a new car every 3 years. People lease a new car every 3 years, and they buy a new car every 6 years, depending on which category they fall into. So, if you're sending out content way back at year 5, you're going to endear the customer so that when they do actually come to purchasing the car, they're more likely to choose your brand. Jeep does a great job of this because they have the Jeep Jamborees. People are highly engaged in the Jeep brand. And I think that's a really wonderful way to create customers who do repeat purchases. I want to show you an example of what I think is a very cool piece of content in an unexpected media. So back in 2016, Villanova, and I think it was also 218, were in the finals of the NCAA championship. I forget who they were playing against, but they won the NCAA championship, men's basketball. And as the fans walked out of the arena, there were brand ambassadors for CocaCola handing out these cans that said, "One shining moment, Villanova Wildcats 2016 NCAA Division I championship." Now, nowhere on there does it say, next time you're thirsty, go buy a Coca-Cola. And, we all know what's going on in the carbonated soft drink market. That market is dying. People are drinking more water and less soda. But here's a way for a brand created an experience and built relevancy and an emotional, empathetic impact. I mean, think about if you're a Villanova fan and you know that Coca-Cola is right there with you, man, I'm going to buy it next time I'm out there and I've decided I'm going to have a Coke, I'm going to have a soda, a carbonated soft drink. Chances are I'm going to buy that Coke over Pepsi. So every single time I'm buying a slice of pizza and I want a Coke, I'm going to buy a Coca-Cola, not a Pepsi. If I'm in the deli and I'm making a sandwich, I'm going to buy the Coca-Cola over the Pepsi because I feel good about Coca-Cola. And I think, content can be a white paper, content can be a video, but content can also be a can of soda. So at the end of the day, content must educate and empower as opposed to sell. So I just want to offer in conclusion, when you give customers what they want instead of what you want, when you educate and commit to authenticity, you empower. But when you advertise, you disengage. That's how you create brand affinity and brand preference. Think of a few words on a can of Coke. Think of how a few words on a can of Coke made people feel about Villanova. That is unforgettable. Hopefully this presentation was unforgettable. I thank you. And I'm willing to take any questions you might have. Or not.
I don't see any questions coming in at the moment.
Okay. Well, if anybody wants to follow up with me, that's my email down at the bottom of this slide. I'd love to hear from you. If anybody wants any information about our graduate program in integrated advertising communications, of which, by piece of information, Stacy is one of our students. So feel free to contact me. I'm happy to hear from all of you.
Oh, wait, I do see a question coming in. Let me just quickly.
Sure.
George just said, thank you for the great information.
You're welcome, George. Nice to meet you. Oh, I can share this presentation with Stacy, who can then send it out to whoever wants it.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today, and a special thank you to Neil for sharing his knowledge. For his full bio, please go to stjohns.edu/CF webinars. Here you will also find a schedule of upcoming webinars and past recordings. I hope you will join us next week, Thursday, September 24th at 9 a.m. for part 2 of our networking and job searching during the pandemic presentation. In the meantime, have a great rest of your day. Thank you.